All right. Hello, Internet. Oh, tall and blind. Happy Friday to you as well. This is a good one. I'm very excited. However, it might be a short one. We are doing an eviction today and need to make sure that, uh, and when I say doing an eviction, I guess we are actually showing up with the deputies to make sure that everybody is appropriately removed. So I don't know what time that's scheduled. That's one of those things where we have to call in between 8 and 8:30, and then they will give us a time. So hopefully that doesn't interrupt too much or cut this live stream too short. But in the meantime, go ahead and post your questions in the chat, and I will get those things answered. And let me throw up this disclaimer, just reminding everybody that I have very little clue as to what I'm talking about. And the only thing I know much about is single family homes. And as far as legal structure, tax advice, anything like that, I have no idea. So just keep that in mind. All right, let's see. Updates on my end. We are steadily making progress on all of our rehab projects, which feels good. It feels good to be back under 10. So now we have a lot of places that we need to go ahead and rent out. And as far as the business goes, we hired a project manager. He's going to start in the middle of July. And I think that is when we are going to be able to see a lot of growth and momentum, because the bandwidth of our company will dramatically increase. So I'm pretty excited about all that. Good morning, Veronica Mcgowan. I'm happy to have you here. I don't think I've seen you on this live stream before. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. We've got 5 people on. This is really exciting stuff. I'm trying to get all this stuff out of my pocket so I can be a little bit more comfortable. LLC and name a trust as owner. You could if you want to. I don't really know much about legal structure other than ultimately it comes down to personal preference. I attempted to write a book on the subject, but at the end of the day, I mean, there are pros and cons to absolutely any structure that you could think of, and it really just comes down to your personal preference. So if you've got a trust that already exists and that's part of your, succession planning or just long-term generational wealth plan, then for sure, I think you should put the ownership of the LLC into a trust. And then, of course, when it comes to LLCs, the safest thing that you can do is put one property in an LLC and have a separate LLC for each property. But I think that is very much so overkill and probably not necessary. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to risk tolerance and personal preference. I remember watching one videos on HUD home bidding. Would you mind touching on that again? HUD home bidding. Sure. So when it comes to HUD homes, those are homes that are foreclosed on, that are owned by, I guess, the government. HUD, Housing and Urban Development, maybe is what that stands for. So anytime a house is purchased with a FHA loan, Fannie, Freddie, any of those guys, it's backed by the federal government. If somebody doesn't pay as they're supposed to, then once the bank forecloses on it, they sell it back to the government for however much the outstanding loan is. So generally with HUD homes, it's not so, well, I guess it's still a bidding deal, but not like a formal auction type bidding, because the formal auction, like the foreclosure, that process has already taken place. So HUD homes are currently owned by HUD, and they're not necessarily at an auction. However, like the first couple days, they're listed on like the HUD home store website. They're only available to owner occupants. And I think it's like 6, maybe 11 days. Honestly, I forget. I haven't thought about this in a little bit. And then after they're on there for, the first 6 or 11 days, however long it is, it might even be 14 days now that I'm saying it out loud. After that, then it is opened up to all bidders, including investors, and there's a little bit of wiggle room in the price, but generally not so much. They will probably list the property for almost exactly what they have in it, and there's very little wiggle room in the price. So sometimes they're great deals, sometimes they aren't. If you think it's going to go pretty quickly, if you think there are going to be a lot of investors, then really the only thing that you could do is bid over their asking price. And it's one of those things where once it's open to all bidders, then HUD generally, the bidding stops at midnight, and they will review all of the bids the following business day. And you should generally have an answer as to whether or not you were the winner by like 8 or 9 a.m. And if you are, you have, earnest money to put down, have to show proof of funds. And then it's not a very quick process, but they have to go through, whatever the government does to make sure that, they can actually sell you the home. So wasn't a very well structured explanation, but that is almost everything that I know about HUD homes and how the bidding process works. Hope that was helpful. Abroad, meaning in a different country? No, I would not. It's hard enough. And I see so many people just out of town or out of state get taken advantage of. I couldn't imagine being separated from my portfolio by a plane trip. And I also don't know I don't know. There would have to be so much education about laws, expectations, a whole bunch of things. I wouldn't feel comfortable with it at all. I have a few out of country investors that I know. And I don't think any of them do a really good job managing their portfolio. So the time zone thing is pretty crazy. And then also just the inability to appropriately oversee. And again, I think the issues with being either an out-of-state investor or an out-of-country investor, I think the larger the portfolio in one area, probably the easier it becomes. But, I know one out-of-country investor that has a couple properties in one city, a couple other properties in another state and city. And I don't understand how you could ever have a reasonable amount of scale or success with that. There's just too many moving parts. Awesome. Thank you. But hey, if investing abroad is something that you want to do, I would definitely just say, go for it, but be very careful and expect the worst, probably. Let's see. What else? We've reached the bottom of the comment section. So if anybody has any additional questions, by all means. Like I said, this might be a shorter one because of that eviction. Waiting to hear back on when that's scheduled. All right. We are putting on our buying hats again. So we took a little bit of a break from buying properties just to make sure that our business was, sustaining appropriately and to make sure that we were able to finish out all of our open rehab projects in a timely manner. So started going around to a couple properties yesterday, looking at buying some. We went and looked at one that was $24,000 and just didn't feel right. And when I say that, I mean the subfloor just didn't feel right. That house sloped hard. So it has been boarded up since like 2015, and 24 grand in this market. You used to be able to buy those kind of homes for just a couple grand, maybe one even. But now everything is pretty well inflated. So $20,000, about a 700 square foot house, not ideal. So we're looking at a few $40,000 and $50,000 homes today, and hopefully we can start putting some stuff under contract. Currently, we only have one property under contract, I believe. We're trying to get another one, but negotiations, we're about $5,000 apart at the moment. Leon Finch, I've heard repeatedly that wholesalers and agents value investors who can close quickly. What are the keys to be able to close quickly and reliably? That's a good question. And generally, the answer to this is cash on hand, or financing already lined up. So pretty much closing quickly really just means that you're not working with a bank. So, banks, some of them want to send out like appraisers. Some want to look at an inspection. It really depends on what bank you're working with as far as what they require, but they definitely slow down the buying process. So if you have cash on hand, if you can close just as quick as title can come back. A lot of times when we submit offers, we say that we will close inside of 14 business days, and we do not have any contingencies or require any inspections. So it's generally very much so like a it's just very quick. And then I try to make it very frictionless for the seller. And once I take a look at the property and I'm comfortable with it, then I don't want the seller to think that, there's anything that could happen to make it to where we would not close. So barring title, of course, that's really the only thing. And I'm assuming all the risks of anything that might not be quite right with the property. Do you use the same title company each time when closing? Yes. This is the only constant in our closings is the title company. I think it's really important to work with one or maybe two title companies very regularly. It just makes the closing process significantly easier, because especially if you have a lot of LLCs, then there's a lot of paperwork involved. Or if you have an LLC, generally title companies just require a lot of information in order to set up the LLC and make sure they have everything, all the appropriate documentation. Once you send that to a title company once, they should keep it on file. So that makes closing with them again in the future a lot easier. And I think, the title company, they're the ones that handle all the moving parts regarding buying a property. So they are generally the hub of communication between the buyers, the sellers, the lenders, the county auditors, pretty much everybody that has a hand or interest in the transaction. So working with somebody, getting into the groove of them, figuring out how they work, I think it just makes it a lot easier. And since I just used the word frictionless once, I'll use it again. And I think using the same title company over and over and over again just makes the process more and more smooth. Good question. And I would also, just to follow up on this, say wholesalers, they value people that can close quickly because they've only got a couple of weeks to actually sell their equitable interest, because as soon as a wholesaler gets a property under contract, they have to close quickly. And then because, wholesaling is one of these weird kind of niche type things, some banks really don't understand it. And then some realtors really dislike it as well. So the fewer people involved, the fewer, formal parties involved as far as like banks and realtors go. When it comes to wholesalers, I think the wholesaler will be pretty happy. All right, 8 people on, and we are at the end of the comment list. And I tell you what, somewhere outside of my office, a skunk has sprayed the building, which is very strange because it is downtown. But man, this smell is strong. It is very distracting. I have never seen a skunk in downtown. Don't know how it got here, but it is here. It is here. All right. Well, while I'm waiting on a few questions, let me go ahead and post the prop stream 7-day free trial in the chat. Let me go ahead and find that link. This is an affiliate link, so I will get a very, very modest kickback after you enjoy it for the 7 days. If you haven't heard of prop stream before, generally it is used to help find off-market deals. I use it a lot for purchasing or for running comps. So before PropStream, I had to reach out to realtors and beg them to run comps for me. And then I would run the risk of getting comp reports that I wouldn't necessarily agree with. So PropStream makes it very easy to run comps. You can go through, you can select which recent sales. You could set your own, I guess, filters to figure out if it was a property that sold 6 months ago, in the past 6 months, in the past 12 months, even 18 months if you want to. You could set the mile radius. You can set the number of bedrooms, square footage. It really lets you dial in the comps. And we just recently purchased a package of 20 properties, and I ran the comps through PropStream, and I came within $5,000 from my estimated comps to where the actual professional comps came back in. So I thought that was pretty incredible. Let's see, let me type this up. Here we go. There are not cash buyers inside the PropStream. You're going to have to build your own cash buyers list. However, you can use PropStream to filter out new leads and find properties that you're interested in. If you are driving around and you see a property that you're interested in, you can go to PropStream. You can figure out who owns it. You can figure out if they have a mortgage. If they have a mortgage, what the balance is. You can see any taxes owed. You can see if it's currently occupied. PropStream is just a awesome and massive data aggregator. So they scrape the internet for tons of information about both the properties and also the people that own the property. So you are able to what's called skip trace the owner, and you'll be able to pull their email address, their phone numbers. Now that costs extra. I think that's like 12 cents per record that you try to skip trace. Hey man, happy to see you around. Let's see. I apologize if you already had. Could you do a video walkthrough from deal financing to close? Also, could you do a video with your brother discussing methods to find financing? That's a really good idea. My brother is very good at finding financing. And from deal financing to close, I think we could do that. I think we would have to work pretty hard to make that video interesting and to figure out how to present it. Because those, let's see here, finding the financing is so dry, and it's generally having tons of conversations with banks. And I'm not so sure that the banks would be interested in talking about our specific deal that we're doing and the financing around it on camera. But I'm positive there's a way that I can do it, and I likely should do it. And I think that would be a very good educational video, probably pretty helpful. I think how to find banks, maybe how to interview banks might be a good video, and maybe a little bit more important than going through like a real example inside of our portfolio, like what to ask the bank, common objections, I guess, a bank would give. But yeah, that's definitely like right in my brother's wheelhouse. It's definitely something that we should do. Good idea. Hey, Ash. Let's see. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's growing. We're going places. I think this is as long as it's ever going to get, but I'm very happy with it. It's been like 2.5 or 3 years now. My oldest daughter, I guess she was born in July of. Ooh, sorry if my kids are watching. They've been doing that lately. I don't remember offhand what year. I know she's 2. She's about to be 3 in July. So, however long ago that was. Let's see. Oh man, that's fun. I got my first thumbs down on one of these live streams. Never had that happen before. I guess somebody asked a question that I didn't answer well. All right. Yeah, I would build a cabin in the woods. It's on my bucket list. So, thanks. All right. Any real questions, Ash? Let's see here. Haven't missed any. Any sort of real estate questions that you got, let me know. Happy to answer them. Or just financial questions. Here for you. Yeah, man. If you're on here still, how's everything going with your portfolio? Are you selling a lot more at the moment, or are you looking for properties to buy? I think you're the one that, I don't know. You and your brother have been. It seems like having a lot of movement, especially finding properties. Just going through, seeing if I missed anything. What are some of the considerations when thinking about converting 2-bedroom, 1-bath into a 3-bed, 1-bath? I guess just like the livability of the home. I think the market. So I think in most places that the rental market's so hot at the moment that you're able to get above market rents for properties that are in pretty decent shape. When the market was flat and when people were trying to get properties onto like Section 8 or some sort of like subsidy voucher type programs, I know there was a really big push to add additional bedrooms. And I don't think adding bedrooms, and the only reason they would really want to do that is so they could get like an extra $100 a month or so. So if you could build an additional bedroom into a property for not that much money, then it's probably a good idea if that's the route that you're going to take. But if you're looking for like a long-term resident, I would really make sure, like I wouldn't convert a dining room into a bedroom just so it's a 3-bedroom. I would keep that dining room there. And I would definitely want the house to flow really well. Now, if there's like a very large unfinished attic that you can like stand up in, I think that would be really easy to turn into like a 3rd bedroom. You wouldn't have any egress issues if you went upstairs. If you went into the basement, you would have to consider like turning in one of the basement windows to like egress window, or digging out an exterior access, because there has to be 2 forms of egress. If it's technically a room inside of a basement. So I guess what I would say is if you're looking to try and increase the amount of rent that you're getting, and there is a way that you can add an extra bedroom without messing up the feng shui of the house, then I'd probably do it, so long as you could do so for pretty cheap. But I would also make sure that you are calculating how much it would cost against the additional amount that you'd get. So if you could do it for like $5,000, but you'd only be able to charge an extra like $50 per month, I likely wouldn't do it. And because rents are increasing the way that they are at the moment, I don't think there's necessarily a need to do that, because just across the board, inventory is so low that you can likely get what you want out of rent without doing all of that work. Good question, though. Would you invest in Austin? No. I've got a good thing going here in Dayton, so I'm gonna keep that going. I think once the deals start drying up in Dayton, then we might go somewhere else, but we are a long ways out. No offense taken. I don't really know, and I'm not really concerned with it. So, I made a decision to not really get on here a lot asking for like likes, subscribes, or like feeding the YouTube algorithm. So it's just not a way that I wish to spend my time. So the only function that I really want this channel to kind of have is for people to be able to come on and ask questions and find answers that are realistic. So a lot of the videos that I've seen and a lot of the people that, make the videos kind of pander towards like the viewership and are, playing around with like the search engine optimization and making videos that they really don't know about. And I don't know, I'm trying to just, as far as building relationships go from the channel, I'm definitely looking for like a quality over quantity type deal. So, this live stream, the viewership has been down over the past couple of weeks, which, is okay. Generally, there's about 20 to 30 people on here. And today there's 6, which I'm very thankful for. And the past week, I think there was about the same. So I also ended last week pretty short. And generally around 10 a.m. is when a lot of people get on. So we generally have to make it to like the hour and a half, 2-hour mark before a lot of people get on. But there are people that regularly come back to the live stream that are very supportive and appreciative. And I think that's what it's about. And the mastermind that we've been able to kind of launch off this YouTube channel has been doing really well as well. And I've been able to build some very deep relationships with just a few people. And that's where I want my focus to be, rather than trying to get this to like 100,000 or 1 million subscribers or some other number. I'm super thankful that over the next couple weeks, we'll be able to hit 10,000. So that's pretty cool. Good morning, Tolu. Really happy to see you back on here. Thanks, Leon Finch. And let's see here, this question. I post my email address pretty regularly. There it is, ryan@seekwisdom.us. I had to go the .us route because .com was like $3,000. I said, man, as much as I want seekwisdom.com, not down to drop $3,000 on the domain name. Yeah, good job, man. A cabin in the woods is where it's at. I would say so like now I've got tons of kids. So living in a cabin doesn't have the same appeal, because that would really be hindering their social life, their ability to like go places besides like streams and climbing up mountains or hiking. Yeah, that doesn't really have the same appeal. But I'll tell you what, man, before my wife and kids, that was my whole goal in life, was to build a cabin and just stay there all by myself. Nice solitude. Let's see. Well, Leon Finch, since I'm officially your mentor, do you have any pressing real estate questions? And yeah, send me an email as well. Let's connect. And Tolu, my memory is not as reliable this morning as I would like for it to be. But I think you were under contract. Is everything going well with that property? That awesome base hit that you hit. Yeah, there we go. Thoreau. But then once I wore a path between the cabin and the stream, I'd have to move. All right. Well, let me see if I've been asked any questions recently that would benefit this live stream. What are your thoughts on short-term rentals, Airbnb? The latter phase of my investment portfolio, I hope to obtain some in my home country, Virgin Islands. That'd be fun. I think they're probably a really good idea. I especially think they're a good idea if you are trying to hold a fewer number of properties and kind of maximize the amount of income that you can produce from those, especially if you live close by. I think it's probably a solid idea. I have no experience in doing Airbnb because we have a large number of properties and we have to, like right now, one of our main focuses and priorities is being scalable and really honing in our systems and processes so that we become more efficient. Right now, since we don't have any Airbnb and since our business isn't built to handle that, it's kind of like trying to shove like a whatever the saying is, a square peg in a round hole, maybe, or the other way around. Not sure. You would think a circle would fit in a square, though. So we definitely have a couple of properties that we have purchased that would make fantastic Airbnbs. But since we're not necessarily set up for it and we don't really have the bandwidth at the moment, we've been pushing it off. But it's something that we would like to look into in the future. Because if you're close to a university, some sort of tourist attraction, if your local city or town codes approves of it and don't have like really crushing or overbearing regulations around Airbnb, then I think it's probably a good way to make the most amount of income from one property. But I unfortunately don't have any experience. Where are you trying to be at in 5 and 10 years with the business? Maybe around 1,000, maybe 1,500 homes. We'll see. I know I did a video on my 3-year goals a while back, and then I said that our goal was to get to 350 properties. That's still our goal. But things have really escalated and the snowball is so serious that I think we might be able to beat that. So we wanted to get to 120 properties by June. It's not there yet. I think we're still in May and we have around 130, a little bit over that. So we have beat that. And I think we might be able to end the year around 170 or 200. So barring the market doesn't increase too much to throw off our projections and nothing crazy happens with the Federal Reserve and our currency. That makes sense. I think now is a really good time to flip. So I figured you were doing something fun like that. Are there any properties you would not do Section 8 on? Pretty much any of them. You know, I know Section 8 has a valuable role, and I know that they are a fantastic resource for a lot of people. But currently, we have not, all of our current Section 8 residents, we inherited when we purchased properties. But right now, you know, the market is in such a manner that as soon as we list a property for rent, we have multiple applications in like the first day, and none of them are Section 8 applicants. So I don't know what or why, but also the paperwork that's required for Section 8 is pretty intensive. So again, hiccups in our own systems and processes. We're just not really built to handle the additional paperwork yet. And yeah, it's just not something that we have much exposure on. So, and we also, I don't know. I think if we had properties that sat for a long time, we would probably approach some of the subsidy programs and see if there was any ways that we could partner and any particular properties that we could give to them. But yeah, the market is just so crazy at the moment that there hasn't been much of a need for it to get places filled. And I mean, we have, I don't want to say there's strict requirements for our applicants, but it's also not like we're getting a bunch of applications from unqualified people. So right now, renting has been going very well for us. Good question, though. And congrats on selling the four unit. Let me know. You probably want full market for that single family home you got, but let me know what you got. I'd be happy to talk about it. Let's see. $15 people, 40 minutes in. We're going places. Let me check on this eviction thing. Yeah, we might need to cut this one a little bit short, as much as I don't want to. We're doing a eviction today, and it's the day where we are meeting the bailiff at the property. So I'm trying to figure out if my presence is needed at this or if these guys have it. So while I'm sending this text message really quick, you guys post your questions in the chat. Any sort of real estate questions you guys got? All right. At what price point would the Dayton market not make sense to invest in? That's a really good question, and I think it's got a long way to go. So I think once we are at the 1% mark or lower, then I think I would start looking elsewhere. And the reason is, the suburbs are generally right at 1%. So if Dayton is to the point where the suburbs are, then it kind of makes sense to. It's like right now, one of the reasons that Dayton is so appealing is you can regularly hit that 2% mark. So if you spend 40 grand on a property, you will likely be able to rent it out for around 800. There are plenty of deals, on the open MLS that, are rent ready properties, and you can get like 1.5% out of them. So, if you buy it for 50 grand, you might be able to rent it out for 750 or somewhere around there. We do our best to hit the 2% rule. And then all of the times that we've purchased properties outside of Dayton proper, then we've been closer to the 1% mark. So I think once investing inside of Dayton becomes no different than investing in the suburbs of Dayton, it would make sense to start kind of diversifying our portfolio and going out into the suburbs. But also, I think before this market doesn't make any more sense, I think once the entire area drops below that 1% mark, there are still plenty of places in the Midwest that are not that far away where you can get that 2% return still. So I don't think, now that I'm saying all these things out loud, like, yes, what I'm saying mathematically and from like a rate of return type deal is true. I didn't like the way that it felt, and I think I'm a little bit emotionally attached to Dayton and this long-term plan of helping a particular area uh, dramatically improve, especially the livability side of things and like what it feels like and what the overall experience of living in that area is. I'm really looking forward to starting to attack that in the coming future. And if I were to go elsewhere chasing returns, then I wouldn't have that long-term impact. So I would have to have, after the numbers didn't make any sense, I would have to have a long, uh, introspective conversation with myself about whether or not I'm after impact or returns. And my knee-jerk reaction would be impact. So now you've got both answers. Good question, man. Good question. How long do you see prices dropping? I feel like we may see a 5 to 10% pullback at top, especially in places like Montana where people are moving in and can afford it easily. I don't think prices are going to drop for a while. I think it really depends on the Federal Reserve and their interest rates. I think this is less of a reflection on the housing market and more of a reflection on our financial system. I also don't know about prices dropping. I haven't seen that yet. Prices are still going up around here, I think. And then I also think that the current state of the world is a very interesting one because historically people have had to live near their jobs, but now kind of like this Montana example is I know a lot of people are moving from California, from where a lot of the tech jobs are, and now that they can work remotely, they're going out to places like Montana that's a lot more affordable and a lot prettier, with a lot more like fun outdoor amenities, and that's not nearly as populated. And I think we're going to continue to see that trend so long as working remote stays an option. So I think, I know a couple of people that have moved away from their tech jobs because remote work became an option. And now they're going to go live in more affordable areas where they can build their investment portfolio and live for a heck of a lot cheaper. So I think overall, this is probably a good thing. And I think it would be a great way to kind of even out a lot of the nation. So I'm pretty excited about it. Hey, I just want to swing by and say I love your videos and they give me a lot to think about in my journey into real estate. Awesome. I appreciate you stopping in and saying that. Could you walk us through the steps that led to the eviction? Yes, I could. And this is an easy one. They just stopped paying. And we, especially throughout this time, we've been very lenient with folks. They're more than welcome to set up some sort of payment plan. So long as communication is there, we're more than happy to work with people. For this particular individual, I don't know. I honestly, there was such a disconnect. I don't understand where the issue was, but they swore up and down that they were paying, but they were not paying. And then when we told them they weren't paying and we'd never have any receipt of their payments, they said that they had proof, and they never presented any proof. And then when we delivered the 3-day notice saying you have to pay, or we're gonna start the eviction process, they told us that they were not going to give us any money. So you can't really do that. You can't live in a property and like not pay your rent. So that's exactly what led us to the situation, is pretty much non-payment of rent. And then like what the steps were like. I called my attorney. He prepared a 3-day notice. We posted the 3-day notice. We started the eviction process 3 days later, and then went to the eviction court, and they never showed up. So it was just us. So there was no rebuttal. So the eviction was, I guess, granted or whatever. And then we filed a writ. And then now today we're going to meet the bailiff at the property. And if they are there, then we're going to go in and, change the locks and help them get all their stuff to wherever their stuff needs to go. I like to think we're very laid back and easy to work with. Just communication is the key, Good question, though. Do you require, yes, renter's insurance? Also, would I be opening myself up from liability if I provide fire extinguishers in the residence? I don't think so. I think that would be a good thing for you to do. I think that would probably... that would probably be a good thing. I think that'd be nice. I definitely think you should require renter's insurance. And I think you should also be added and make sure that you are added as an additional insured or an additional interest. Insured, that means if there's a claim, you're likely going to be included on it, which makes it a lot easier for you to make sure that your property is actually restored appropriately. Additional interest just keeps you abreast of if any changes happen in the policy or if it cancels for non-pay. How long do you see these prices remaining inflated? Buyers are bound to be exhausted as prices get too high. I don't know. I think so long as people that are in need of money can access money at low interest rates to buy homes, I think it's a good thing. And I don't necessarily see an issue with prices continuing to go up. I think historically the average rate of appreciation on real estate is about 4% per year. So I know corrections happen in markets, but I think for the most part, I know that 2008 happened. That impacted the housing market, so to speak, because people were playing around with financial instruments on properties. But the actual assets, the underlying assets of those, I am of the thought, because I'm so pro real estate, that for the most part, I think if there is any sort of deviation in prices, it's more of a reflection of other things rather than the homes themselves. And another thing to keep in mind is, even though housing prices fluctuate greatly, rental prices really don't. So rents don't, and the market price of rents, like monthly rental rates, they don't really fluctuate like that. And when 08 happened, from my understanding, I wasn't an investor at the time. I was barely out of high school. Even though those rates, the housing prices fluctuated and went down a great deal, the actual rents did not go down at all. We have one rental now, looking for our next. FYI, don't move here. Yeah, you should tell everybody that. Yeah, and I'll help you spread the word. It's a very, very bad place. Not a good place to raise kids. What's the one purchase you have made in the past year that has given you happiness? That's a good question. Probably this house that I currently live in. Probably the most amount of happiness. But honestly, man, I still get giddy. I still get very giddy each time we buy a new house. And it does the soul so good to take a property that is distressed and turn it into like a really nice looking place. That I don't think that's ever going to get old. It feels so good to do that. And it makes me really, really proud. So, and then I'm also really pumped that, all of our contractors that we work with, we don't put Band-Aids on anything. We just fix it the right way the first time, the very permanent way, even if it means like just today, we are removing a wall that we just put up, finished and painted to replace the plumbing stack because, rather than trying to jerry rig something or get a few years out of it, it would make sense just to undo it now, change out the stack, and then redo that drywall work. So I think just being a good steward of resources and being a good steward of the homes inside the portfolio is just a really good feeling and brings me a lot of joy. I know that sounds a little bit cheesy, but it's very much so true. Do I need to earn at a certain income level before I get started in buying my first rental property? No, you don't. That's one of the cool things about real estate investing is you can get extraordinarily creative. Banks have to follow rules. And, To a certain extent, we do as well as investors, especially around like usury laws. And I mean, there's a lot of laws that apply, but at the same time, it's almost kind of like a Wild West feel. So if you can find somebody that owns a home, you can strike up almost whatever agreement that you two want to buy that from them. So seller financing is a real thing, and there are a lot of ways to get into real estate without having a high W-2 income or like a stable self-employment income. Now, it's a lot harder. It's definitely easier to have a high W-2 income and start qualifying for loans and buy things traditionally. But at the same time, there are also, dozens of examples of people making a significant amount of money using creative financing inside of real estate. Do you have any not so great stories about any regrettable properties you've bought or neighborhoods, learning curves? I don't think so. I think when I have my 30-year goggles on and I'm thinking about this long term, no. If I'm thinking about this from like a 3 to 6 month perspective, oh, absolutely. But for the most part, like I just described, I mean, I really enjoy every house in the portfolio. There are a few that it was just like, man, if I knew how much work this was going to take up, I probably wouldn't have seen it as a good deal if my analysis were a little bit more accurate. But nonetheless, I'm still very thankful for all of our properties, and I plan on taking really good care of them for the next couple of decades. So no real regrets, just bills that are higher than expected. Oh, I am going to have to go. I don't want to, but I'm going to answer these 2 questions from Leon Finch, and then I'm going to have to sign off here. I need to be at the property very soon. And I probably will be a little bit late as it is, but mainly that's because of how slow I drive. I'm a very slow driver. All right, so I'm in the process of building my A team. What are the keys to finding a good real estate experienced attorney? I am currently of the belief that your A team is 100% relationship oriented. So I definitely think you should find a really good attorney that has a significant amount of knowledge of the real estate law. But I think it's probably more important that you find an attorney that you really appreciate on like a person-to-person level. And I think relationships last. I don't think I would want anyone in my A team to be like on a transactional basis. I definitely want that underlying relationship, the people that are vested in your success and vested in you just as a person. And subsequently, you also need to be very vested in them as well. So I can tell you that over the years, there have been people that have considered me like part of their A team on for insurance. And man, every time they called me, it was for this long, lengthy discussion. And it was just a pure transaction, me just being utilized and kind of taken advantage of, so. That's what I say. So relationship over transactions 100% of the time. Why would some investors purchase properties through land trusts? Anonymity is the key in this. This is what people are after when they deed a property to a land trust. So a land trust is just a sheet of paper. Now this disclaimer is rolling, so I really have no idea what I'm talking about. But land trusts are mainly used for anonymity's sake. They're just like a sheet of paper that can hold a deed. And then that sheet of paper of the land trust is not recorded anywhere. So it's not public information as to who actually owns that, who the beneficiary of that land trust is. So it just adds like an extra layer of investigation that any party that's interested in suing you is going to have to do. So that's the only real reason that I know of. But again, this is not something that I necessarily specialize in. All right. I sure do appreciate everybody. 15 people. This was a fantastic live stream. It's fun to end at a really high number. So sorry I have to cut this one short, but hey, I really appreciate you being here. And next Friday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard, I'll be right here ready to answer your questions. All right. Talk next week.